Troy Green.
Alright guys, welcome back to our daily football podcast, and today we're going to touch on the subject of college football, and we're going to talk about the big games today. We're going to talk about Ohio State, Cal, Mississippi, Texas. We're going to talk about Alabama and A&M, and also we're going to talk about UCLA and Nebraska. But today joining me, G, and DT, we're going to have my special friend, David Flood.
Howdy.
David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, but I'm ready to talk some football, so let's get to it.
All right, let's get to it then. Our first game up on the slate we're going to talk about is Ole Miss and Texas. DT, what is your take on this game?
I think Texas comes into this game with their hands full, fresh off of a 40-21 loss to unranked BYU. Ole Miss is not afraid of this Texas football team. I mean, they got playmakers in Bo Wallace, Jeff Scott, and running back. I mean, they can put up big numbers just like BYU did last week. This is a big game for Mac Brown. They lose this, he might be out. He might be out in Austin. New defensive coordinator. I don't think they really changed much. I guess we'll see. I got Texas winning 34-27 now.
34-27, that's your game? That's your win?
34-27. I think it's going to be a close game.
All right.
Ole Miss isn't scared. They lost Robert Nkemdiche for about 4 to 6 weeks, but I mean, I still think they do good against this porous Texas offense. It's probably going to be bad without David Ash. I think he has like a head injury.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that was the headlines on his injury. Mm-hmm. Now, David, what is your take on this game?
Well, I think in order for UT to have any type of chance, not just against Ole Miss, but against any team, they have to have some type of continuity at quarterback. I mean, for the past 2 years, it's always been a toss-up between David Ash and Case McCoy, and the offense has never really had a real leader to lead them on offense. The only problem is Ole Miss is 56th in the nation. They've allowed 24 points a game. In Texas, they have a decent offense. I think they can put up some scores, but I think that when it all is said and done, Ole Miss wins. I think it's going to be, like DT said, it's going to be close. I don't have an exact prediction, but I think Ole Miss pulls it out.
All right. Do you think it would be a shootout? Or it's going to...
I don't think it's going to be a shootout, per se. I think it's not going to be, 40s. I think it's going to be low 30s, high 20s. That's my take.
Like a 31-28 or, field goal kind of game?
Yeah, kind of. The only thing I see is Ole Miss pulling away in the fourth quarter. I think that UT will keep it close for 3 quarters, but in that fourth quarter, Ole Miss will pull away. So my safe prediction is going to be like 34-21 also.
Right. DT, how do you feel about this Ole Miss defense against this UT offense?
I mean, last year they gave up 66 points. I mean, one linebacker on the team said they feel like they've gotten faster and stronger. They say they're not scared of UT. They're ready for the challenge this year. I mean, hey, SEC defense, they've improved a lot. Texas can't really score points against good defenses.
All right, well, my prediction for this game, I have Ole Miss winning 34-24. I think it's going to be a 10-point game. I think Ole Miss is going to run over this team because Bo Wallace is a dual-threat quarterback, and the running back Scott is actually a pretty good running back I have out there, and Laquan Tidwell is a coming-up freshman for this offense. And also they have Montref, I believe that's how you say his last name, number 12 wide receiver for Ole Miss, and I think they're going to
say
Moncrief, there you go. And they're going to bully these UT cornerbacks and this defense, which there has been lack of defense there in the city of Austin. But I have Ole Miss winning in this game, and I do not have, you heard in my last podcast, I don't think Mac Brown comes out this in a good way. I think he comes off still in a hot seat, still in trouble, still facing, if he's even going to last as long as he will in the rest of the season. But that's another topic of discussion. I have Ole Miss winning 34-24, and I think the Texas defense is going to suffer a big time. Now let's go to our next game, Ohio State and Cal. And I'm going to go send it to my guest, David Flood. how do you feel about this game?
Well, if Braxton Miller was going to be the quarterback and starting, I think it's a washout. I think Ohio State just totally runs over Cal. But since Kenny Guyton's actually a pretty decent quarterback. He has some pretty good numbers the last game after Miller had to come out. But I don't think that Ohio State's going to be able to run the same offense as they do through Braxton Miller. But, I mean, California, they lost to Northwestern their very first game, and they barely beat Portland State. So, with their prior history this year, even though it's only been 2 games, I don't see how California can upset Ohio State. I think Ohio State's going to come out and beat them. I think California, they might have a decent game, but there's no way they come out on top. I have Ohio State winning 34-10.
Right. And so you have them winning 34-10, and it's at California. You don't think that's going to be a disadvantage to Ohio State being in that?
I really don't. I mean, California, they have a good stadium, they have good fans and everything, but Ohio State's Ohio State. You know, they have Urban Meyer. They're well coached. They know how to deal with the pressure of a road game. So I think Ohio State can pull it out pretty well.
Right, that's a good point to make. And so you don't think that they're DT, you don't think that the Ohio State's defense is going to handle the number 1 passing offense so far in the country?
I think Cal gives them a run for their money, playing at home against a ranked team. Braxton Miller out. I believe they feel like they have a shot. I think Urban Meyer comes out there running the football, utilizing his players, utilizing his playmakers, Jordan Hall, Devin Smith. I think Ohio State has too much talent to make more big plays and ultimately score more points on offense.
Right. And a very good point to prove is Kenny Guyton was actually elected as a team captain for Ohio State. Do you think that makes a difference? Do you think he brings something more than Braxton Miller? Like, he brings something that Braxton Miller can't?
I don't think he brings something that Braxton Miller can't. I believe he brings senior leadership. I believe this team rallies behind him. Plays their hearts out, get a W on the road. It's a pretty good Cal offense, by the way.
Yeah, but, I mean, if you look, like I said about Portland State, how do you think that California can bounce back from barely winning against Portland State, a team that is pretty much just run-of-the-mill mediocre? Like, how do you think they can compete against Ohio State at a high level if they can barely beat Portland State?
I mean, when it's a road game, you never know. I mean, anything can happen on the road. Young freshman quarterback, he's only going to get better as the season continues.
Yeah.
But I think to me that's actually going to render California, actually, because of the fact that they have a freshman there. I don't think his confidence is up there coming off those 2 games. I think his confidence would probably be boosted against the Northwestern game. The fact that he actually, brought that team back into a top 25 team.
I mean, the kid's leading the nation in passing. I mean. Yeah.
That is true, but I mean,
he has confidence in his own, believe me.
Yeah, it's just I think David makes a very excellent point about the Portland State game. I think it's just it's Portland State. I'm not downing Portland State. I mean, Eastern Washington, I believe, beat Oregon State, and that was a big upset. But that's not the point. Now, David, what is you have Ohio State winning this game 34-10.
34-10.
And Darius, DT, what do you have?
Ohio State winning 28-24. It's going to be a close one.
I got Ohio State winning 28-10. I think Cal shows that. I think Cal's going to go up first, but then I think they're just going to fall apart. I don't think they're going to roll with it. I think Ohio State comes back. I think Urban Meyer shows.
Yeah, because Urban Meyer, he's been around the league. He knows how to adjust his defense to a quarterback, and a freshman quarterback that's in his. This is his first year. I mean. He's gonna have a tough time adjusting to Ohio State sets when they start to adjust to him as a quarterback.
Right, he's just gonna love this. He's gonna probably mess up he's probably gonna give the freshman quarterback looks he's never seen before, and he probably don't know what he's gonna do with that. But yeah, I think we all agree Ohio State's gonna win this game. On to our next game, UCLA at Nebraska, I believe, and this is a game between 2 top 25 teams that are very under the radar. Contenders for their conference. Maybe not Nebraska as much, but who do you have, DT? Who do you like in this game?
You know what? I have experience over youth. I have Nebraska taking this one 21-17 at home. Brett Hundley versus Taylor Martinez. 2 dual threat quarterbacks. I think Nebraska has more playmakers. I believe they win. They win at home, as we all know. I got them taking this from 21-7, but I think it's going to be a defensive battle.
All right. I have Nebraska winning this game. Like I said, I'd take Bo Pelini's defense over Jim Mora. I think it would be an upset if UCLA beats Nebraska this game, but I think it's going to be a close game. I'm looking about 28, 24, a 31-28 game. But I think Nebraska comes out on top. I think Nebraska just has, way better. I like their offensive line more than I like UCLA's. I like their defense more than I like UCLA's. And I like their quarterback more than I like UCLA's. Even though I like both quarterbacks, they're both probably going to run the same kind of formation, which is, I think a pistol set or some option like that. But I just think Taylor Martinez comes out on top with this game and brings his team to victory.
I disagree. I don't know if you guys have heard, but one of their wide receivers was actually killed last Sunday. And I see that UCLA takes that as fire. And they beat the Huskers. I believe they come into Nebraska and they beat the Huskers. Last year Nebraska was torched by the UCLA offense, and I don't think that it's going to happen again too much. I think it's going to be a shootout, but I think Nebraska knows what UCLA is going to come with. I think they're going to be prepared for it, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop it. Brett Hundley in his opening matchup against Nevada, 66.7% completion rate. That's pretty good for a college quarterback, and 2 touchdowns. I think, like I said, I think UCLA comes out with a lot of fire, a lot of heart, and I think they pull this one out 45-35 against Nebraska.
45-35, wow.
45 points.
Yeah, 45 points.
I think a lot of people underestimate Taylor Martinez and his playmaking ability. I mean, dude is he's a senior now. I think Nebraska's going to make a splash in the Big Ten this year.
Now let's talk about this before we get to the big game. We'll save that for last because Dave brings a very excellent point. If UCLA does win this game, is Brent Hundley, does that put him in Heisman talks for you? Or is that, do you even have him on your top 5 list? Let's go into that topic as well.
I don't have Brett Hundley anywhere near my top 5 list yet because he hasn't really, I don't think he's proved himself quite yet. His matchups haven't been as tough as, say, Taj Boyd. Teddy Bridgewater, he didn't have very many. He hasn't had any tough matchups, but he's still a crazy quarterback. I think that if UCLA wins, I think Brett Hundley comes closer to the top 5 in the Heisman candidacy, but he still has to prove himself a lot more on that field before he can even be considered with Teddy Bridgewater or Taj Boyd.
Right. So, who is your top 5 list? Let's get into that.
My top 5 list, I have Teddy Bridgewater number 1. He has 9 touchdown passes against 14 incomplete passes. That's crazy. He's only thrown 14 incomplete passes in 2 games against 9 touchdowns. Now, I don't think that the defenses he's faced weren't very good, but, for a quarterback to come out and torch 2 defenses like that is pretty crazy. Their offense isn't going to be overly tested in this 2013 schedule, but I still think Teddy Bridgewater comes out on top. Then second, I have Taj Boyd. He beat Georgia in their opening game, and he has 2 more opportunities against Florida State and South Carolina to impress the voting public. He's been a pretty good quarterback throughout this year. He's been pretty consistent. He hasn't thrown any interceptions. He's got 3 touchdowns. And he's also mobile in the pocket, which also keeps him able to move around. And then third, I have Marcus Mariota. He could easily, honestly, DeAnthony Thomas could actually overtake him in the Heisman race, I believe, because DeAnthony Thomas is a great running back and he can do a lot of different things. But Mariota's number 3 on my list because I think he is a serious injury threat. He throws the ball and he runs the ball pretty much equal amount of time, but I think that he kind of has that RG3 look to him, where he's going to run, he's going to get hit, and he's going to get hurt. I believe that Mariota might get hurt this year. Number 4, I have Johnny Football. Now, I think he's taken a back seat to all these other 3 quarterbacks because of his early season suspension. But I also look at Johnny Manziel as a right-handed Tim Tebow. He's not really good to throw very far. He doesn't have very much arm strength. and he relies more on his legs than he does his arm. Plus, he went back to his old self against Sam Houston State, but that's Sam Houston, you know. They're not Alabama or, you know, Florida State or even Oregon. Number 5, rounding out my top 5, I have Todd Gurley from Georgia. He's been the best running back in the NCAA this year. Against South Carolina, they just gave him the complete ball, 30 carries. I mean, what other running back in the NCAA can carry his team like that without getting hurt? That's why he cracks my top 5, because he's very important to the Georgia Bulldog offense.
That's interesting. I like the fact that you mentioned about the Anthony Thomas and the Marcus Mariota thing. That's what I think. Marcus Mariota gets hurt in my Heisman race because I feel like his whole offense in general is just going to hurt him. The fact that everybody's productive and not him. Like, I understand he's the commander-in-chief of that offense, really. Like, he's the guy who's throwing the ball and also choosing to hand off the ball or not. But I think that his, playmakers are going to hurt him, as of DeAnthony Thomas. That's why I really have what can I say? I have 6 players, but 2 of them are tied for 5th, and that's DeAnthony Thomas and Marcus Mariota are tied because I think it could go either way with them. It just depends on the voters who they're going to choose.
Yeah, I kind of want to step in here for a second because I agree completely with what you say. I think that Marcus Mariota's surrounding cast makes him a better quarterback as he is. I mean, if Marcus Mariota was playing at Louisville, do you think that he would be as productive as Teddy Bridgewater is?
Well, I mean, that I do not know because that's like hard to say because like you can see the talent that Marcus brings, like his speed. He's actually very fast at a quarterback, being 6'5", but it's so hard to tell if you're going to be that good because if your offensive line knows how to block correctly as they do, or they have the receivers, or like they have the fact that their threats all over the field are like so imposing on defenses that they don't really account for their quarterback as much. They just because they got to worry about DeAnthony Thomas or the 3 running backs they got back there. They got to worry about Braylon Addison. They got to worry about any of their other receivers that they have out there. That Colt Laurier is a very good tight end. They also have 2. I mean, it's just, is there a defense that's going to, or do they have time to worry about a quarterback? That's really my point about that. That's why I think DeAnthony Thomas is really, the number one thing on this, on the Heisman list. He's probably above Marcus Mariota to me. Number 4, I have Todd Gurley. You made that point clear. What back do you know is carrying his team? I mean, I understand this is Aaron Murray's team, but Todd Gurley is the playmaker on that whole offense. Now that they have lost, I believe it's what's his name, Malcolm Mitchell, or the receiver that they lost.
Yeah, the one that tore his ACL celebrating.
Yeah, him. That was very smart. He looks like one of the Grammatica brothers. But regardless, they lose him. That's their playmaking wide receiver. I think that's going to hurt Aaron Murray's numbers. I mean, Aaron Murray's really out of the Heisman list, but that doesn't mean he's not a good quarterback. But Todd Gurley is at number 4 for me.
You think Aaron Murray's out of the Heisman list?
Yeah.
Aaron Murray's one of the top quarterbacks. I take Aaron Murray over Teddy Bridgewater.
What?
Now give me a reason. We'll put my list to a pause. Tell me why.
I got Teddy Bridgewater at number 4. I don't even have a top 5. I have Teddy Bridgewater at number 4, Aaron Murray at number 3. Aaron Murray plays more tough opponents than Teddy Bridgewater. I still think he's going to put up this. I think he's going to put up the exact same numbers as Teddy, who's in the AAC playing teams like Houston and Temple and stuff like that. I mean, at the end of the day, Heisman voters are going to look at who you played, your final record, and the stats you put up. You put Aaron Murray's stats up at the end of the year against anybody else in the country, they're probably going to be just the same. I believe he's going to be better opponents. He's already knocked out South Carolina. I mean,
okay, well, he came off to a loss to Clemson. Does that hurt his Heisman? Like, because that's like fresh in the year.
By 3 points. And guess what? He put up 35 points in that Georgia offense behind a terrible offensive line in the game.
All right. Well, I'll see your point there.
DT, let me ask you this, okay? Do you think that Aaron Murray would be as good if the opposing defense didn't have to worry about Todd Gurley being behind him? I mean, the Heisman race is mostly about who's more important to their team. I don't think that Aaron Murray is as important to Georgia as, say, Taj Boyd or Teddy Bridgewater is to their respective schools. I think that if you take Todd Gurley out of out of the Georgia offense, I think
he still has Keith Marshall, and he still has those wide receivers on the outside.
Right, but you don't have that running threat. They're going to be looking to pass. Now, when they have Todd Gurley in the backfield, the defense has to worry that they're going to run the football. Without Todd Gurley or any type of running back behind Aaron Murray, they're just going to be focused on the pass completely.
I think Keith Marshall is still a darn good running back. I think he started on a lot of other teams out there in the country. I mean, he's just as productive. He had double-digit touchdowns last year, just as Todd Gurley. They shared touches.
I mean, we're not here to argue about if Keith Marshall's a bad running back. I believe he's good too. I mean, that's just scary that they have two good running backs at their school like that.
My point is, even without a running game, I still think Aaron Murray puts up 30+ points a game. The dude's just that good. I mean, he's on pace to break all the SEC records for passing. The guy's one of the greatest SEC quarterbacks of all time. You can't argue with it. Despite the fact he's never won the big game, I mean, the dude's stats speak for himself. Teddy Bridgewater, who is he playing? He's playing no-name teams. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater plays one ranked opponent this entire year.
A good question to ask both of y'all. I'm sorry to interrupt. Let me just put this out there. Do you think the voters? I'm pretty sure the voters don't do this at all, actually. But you don't even look at the past, right? You don't look at the previous year at all. What they did against other schools, like you know how Louisville actually beat Florida in a bowl game. And do you not look at that at all to help their Heisman? Or
they beat Florida. Who also played terrible on offense. I think people underestimate Charlie Strong's coaching ability on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, he won 2 national championships in Florida as a defensive coordinator. I mean, Louisville played good defense on Florida. They got up early and they just never recovered. They just stepped on their necks, kept on going.
I mean, even if you don't look at the stats from Teddy from last year, you have to look at what he's doing. Granted, he's not playing ranked teams and he's not playing the best defenses in the NCAA, but he's still taking it to them like a quarterback from a ranked team should. He's playing at a high level, a higher level than, in my opinion, any of the other quarterbacks are.
But he's not doing anything we haven't seen before. We all know the Heisman is a numbers game, and then on top, it's just a numbers award. And after that, you got to win all your games as well. If you're not going to be playing any worthy opponents. I mean, you can put up 300, 400 yards a game, just like what's his name? Graham Harrell did a few years back. Cole Brennan did it at Hawaii. Matter of fact, he reminds me of Cole Brennan from Hawaii. Threw for over 5,000 and some odd yards. I mean, 50 something touchdowns. Still didn't win a Heisman because he didn't play anybody.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me put it this way, since they have to beat good opponents, I mean, you have to at least have a winning record. You don't really have to have an undefeated record or just one loss. If Johnny Football loses to Alabama last year, does Monte Tail win the Heisman that year?
No, he still doesn't, because Johnny Manziel did some ridiculous stuff that we've never seen before. I mean, we've seen it, but we haven't seen it from a freshman, and we haven't seen it against SEC opponents besides him too, but we haven't seen it.
Speaking of Johnny Football, I have to have a surprise for this list. He is not on my list on Heisman.
You're crazy.
I do not have him on my list because Johnny Football, Darius said this yesterday. Good guys finish first in the NCAA. You were a good guy last year, but now guess what? You're off the list. Number three on my list, and I actually had a very good way of putting him on my list. I have to watch one more game of him, though. Put it this way. If he has another good game, he stays on the list, but he drops down to probably 5. But I have him number 3, and that's famous Jameis Winston.
Oh, God.
I have him on my list, not only because I have him number 3, because a very good odds came out that famous Jameis Winston is the 3rd best chance to win the Heisman at the end of this year already. He has I believe, a 12-1 chance to win this Heisman. And I'm going with Vegas because last year Vegas predicted that Johnny Football was 4th best to win the Heisman last year, also coming into week 3. And but that's just Vegas, but who knows? But
well,
I'm just
you can look at numbers all you want. Famous Jameis is going to get broken before week 10 of college football. Yeah. Then they play Florida. I think Florida just destroys this young freshman quarterback.
So you think he doesn't last?
He's good. Don't get me wrong, but he's not going to be anywhere as successful as he was against Pittsburgh. There won't be any more 5 touchdown pass games.
Well, we'll see. I'll promise you, I'll eat my own words if it happens. Number 2 is Tosh Boyd, but I really don't like Tosh. I mean, to me, I look too much as a perspective as an NFL prospect, but I always know, no matter what, you can win the Heisman. Doesn't mean you're a good college. That doesn't mean you're going to be a good NFL player at all.
Tebow.
Not just Tim Tebow. Johnny Manziel also. He's not going to be a good.
Oh no, yeah, exactly. That's what I was actually going to put that point out there, but you got to me first. But also with Manziel, while we're talking about him, I want to say something. Is if he keeps with his punk attitude on the football field, he's either going to get hit really hard, or the NCAA is going to end up suspending him for the way he acts on the field.
I mean, I understand it brings, like, Johnny Football brings eyes to the game, like, oh, it's Johnny Football against Alabama, we got to watch that game, but, NCAA just cannot have this little boy, this little punk that comes up, because he's leaving at the end of this year. It's not like he's staying. Yeah. He's not like he's staying. We already know that, the way his attitude. He thinks he's going to be a first-round pick. I doubt that. I don't even see him coming out the 5th round.
Me neither.
But
Wow.
Johnny Football, it's the fact that his attitude he brings to the game is the fact that, also, I bet you their defensive line is going to say autographs, are just going to taunt him. But the thing about Johnny Football, if you taunt him and if it gets to his head and he has a bad game, he's gonna have the Jay Cutler effect. He's just gonna snowball, and he's just gonna hurt that team. Or it's just gonna do the opposite, and it's just gonna fuel his fire, and he may just go off. But no, we're gonna talk about our predictions later on. But I have number 3, famous Jameis Winston, just because of his playmaking ability. And this kid is only 18 years old, guys, and his birthday is not till December 30th. How do you feel about that? This dude's 18. And he's a redshirt freshman. That means this dude, if he started last year, would have been 17 years old.
I think that kind of speaks against your point of putting a number 3 on your list, because he's 18 years old. I mean, the kid is 18. He's still a kid. I mean,
he's 18.
Yeah, he's 18.
His body isn't even grown in yet. He could get hurt so much more easily just because he's 18 years old.
Oh, well, you got a good point there. But I still have him at number 3. Sorry, Johnny. I don't like you. You just need to act. Because put it this way, Johnny Football's rendering his team, because if he acts like an ass like that on the field to his coach, that makes the other players saying, oh, if Johnny could do it, why can't I do it? I mean, I'm ball as hard as he does, with that kind of mentality. I mean, let me tell you this. Johnny Football's not even the 3rd best player on his team. I don't think.
Okay, I gotta stop you right there.
No.
Johnny Manziel won the Heisman for a reason, and it's because he's the best player in the country. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Okay, yes, he may have a few character issues that got blown out of proportion by the media, by the way. I should add, I don't think he's going to be falling for the Alabama players taunting him on Saturday afternoon or whatever. I think Johnny Manziel is going to be too focused on scoring touchdowns, getting one step closer to the SEC title.
Well, now that you just gave it away, but for our next game predictions, but number 2, Tosh Boyd, it's just Tosh Boyd. I just like his odds of winning the Heisman. I mean, it's just, and also the conference he plays in. Sorry, ACC, it's not really that tough this year. I mean, yes, you have Miami. They won against Florida because of bad quarterback play. That wasn't a really, good test for y'all football-wise. Florida State's probably his only competition, but Florida State is not like, I think last year's Florida State would have been a lot scarier than this year's because of their what they have on the defensive side last year was a lot more. I would have been a lot more afraid of that defense than this year's. But number 1 is Teddy. I just got to go with Teddy because I just like his odds of winning this, and I like the fact, I think he's going to have almost a near perfect season, but that doesn't. And the fact that he actually took, it's the fact that he actually's taken his team to the highest ranking it's ever been. And the thing is, a lot of people need to understand he's a passer first, and he wants to show that first that he's a passer first, and he can actually run. And that's the thing about him. He's like an opposite RG3, I guess. RG3 was we're like, oh, he runs fast. Oh, and then he can pass the ball. No, Teddy is a very good pocket passer, and he can move out the pocket. And that's my ending up my top my Heisman list. Darius, what was your last 3?
I don't have a top 5. I got Teddy Bridgewater at number 3 simply because I know he's going to put up big numbers. Just in case Johnny Manziel and Mariota, lose a few games along the way, which I highly doubt. Number 2, I have Johnny Manziel. I believe he's going to be the first back-to-back Heisman Trophy winner since Archie Griffin. And Marcus Mariota, number 1. I think Marcus Mariota has a chance because of, like I said the other day, nice guys finish first in college football. I don't think they're going to. I think Johnny Manziel puts up better numbers. I believe he has the better season, but they're going to reward the nice guy. There it is. It's that simple.
You think Johnny Manziel's going to put better numbers than Marcus Mariota with that offense? And how much they keep that offense on the field?
I sure do. I mean, he did last year, so he can do it again. He can easily do it again.
Well, now that we got that Heisman race and we got a little bit touchy on our next subject, but let's get to the big game. Our guests go first. David,
all right.
Tell me who you got and why.
This one's a tough one for me because I think, like DT said, that Johnny Manziel is going to use Alabama's taunting and the way that they act as fuel. But on the other hand, I mean, the kid's a sophomore. He's proven that he's not smart, and he does stupid things on and out and off the field. And, it could go either way. I mean, Johnny football could either completely just snowball, or he could just blow up his whole team. So in my opinion, you kind of have to take Johnny Manziel out of the picture because it depends on how Johnny Manziel plays and also how he doesn't play. I think that Alabama is just Alabama. I mean, I don't think that A&M can beat Alabama because Manziel has not been the same quarterback he has been because he hasn't been running the way he has. Against Alabama, he beat Alabama mostly because he was running the football. He only averaged 5.1 yards per carry against Sam Houston State University. If you can't run against a defense like that, then how is he going to do it against Alabama? I mean, the Crimson Tide can be beat, but I don't think that Manziel can be that quarterback that's going to beat him. I think that if A&M had a better quarterback that could read a defense and run an offense better, I think that they would have a better chance. But I have Alabama coming out on top. I think it's going to be a close one, but I have Alabama coming out on top 24-17.
24-17. That's a close game. Let's go to a DT. What do you got?
Well, I don't care what the Alabama players say about this game. This is all about revenge for them. A&M ruined their perfect season last year. Their offense has kind of regressed. The offensive line, not the same. They lost about 3 starters. I think it was to the draft.
Yes, 3.
I just don't see Alabama hanging with this team. I think Johnny Manziel has his way with this defense. I don't care what you say. Call me crazy. I think Johnny Manziel. I've yet to see anybody besides LSU and Florida in the second half last year stop Manziel. That was early in the season. I think he's gotten better. He's going to play lights out, and the show's going to go on. I think he grabs a hold of the Heisman race tightly.
Let me ask you this. Okay, you remember against the first game against Rice, at halftime, that game was close without Manziel. And Rice could have very, very easily taken that game if Manziel hadn't come back in. But what I'm going to say here, he did come in, but my point is if Manziel can't handle the defense like I said he can't, then how can you assume that A&M can beat Alabama if they can barely stay ahead of Rice in their first game without Manziel?
But you know what? Alabama can't. But Alabama hasn't been scoring many points lately. I don't think their offense is as good as they were last year. They're nowhere near as good as they were last year. Having a lot of offensive line troubles. A&M has quite a few pass rushers on their football team. And I just don't see this defense stopping Manziel either. And all these weapons they have out there in the field, I don't see them stopping them. I got A&M taking this game 34-31.
So it's gonna be a high scoring game, you think?
I think it's gonna be a high scoring game.
Well,
I think they're gonna even out the quarter. I think they're gonna even out the scoring within throughout the 4 quarters. I don't think it's just gonna be a high scoring game at the end. All of a sudden defense gets tired. See a high scoring. No, I think they're gonna be making plays here and there each quarter. I think it's gonna be a lot of big plays in this game.
Well, I just want to access my points, and then I'm gonna tell you who I have winning. Alabama is not. I don't know. I don't see the same thing from them, but I also don't. Do you think? A good question to ask both of y'all. What is Nick Saban's game plan that he's telling his players that to use the revenge to help fuel them, or to stay calm and collective and don't fuel Johnny Manziel's fire?
I think Nick Saban's telling the defense to go after the guy. punch them in the mouth, go at them early and often, put some hits on them. That's what I think Nick Saban is saying his defense.
I agree completely with DT. I think that Nick Saban's going to tell them, whether it be before the game or at halftime, if Johnny Manziel starts running his mouth like he has in previous games, to just keep there. The Bama defense is going to use that as fuel against Manziel, and they're going to want to hit him even more and more. Now, the one thing I see that Bama could get a little bit too carried away, and that could cost them a few penalties later in the game if they actually go after Manziel. It could cost them some penalties and some valuable yards. But I think Bama uses Manziel's punk attitude, and they punch him in the mouth, and they take it.
So you think there's going to be a lot of late hits and a lot of rough in the passer kind of calls this game?
There are a lot of late hits. There are a lot of personal fouls. They just help saying them. Because you give Johnny Manziel a first down, you give him 3 more downs to work with, anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now let's go to my points. Alabama doesn't look the same on offense, especially the offensive line. But my argument against that for Alabama is A&M doesn't have that much of a good defense this year. And it's going to be a struggle battle between Alabama's offensive line against that very weak Texas A&M defense. Granted that they are young, and I feel like they'll probably gel by the end of the year. You know, they'll look actually like an SEC defense or somewhat of it. But I don't think that, I think Alabama's offensive line probably does manhandle this defense for a bit, but it's a toss-up. It's like a flip of a coin for me on that part. But they have a lot more playmakers on Alabama's offense than they do on on Texas A&M defense.
Can you name all of them for me? Because I've only counted like 2 so far.
What, playmakers?
Well, let me step in here. I don't think that you can really just focus the game on playmakers on offense, because Adrian McCarron knows how to win in the big situation. He's been there. He's done it. He knows how to run an offense. He hasn't had the greatest year so far, but he knows how to run an offense efficiently. And I think that's works at A&M's disadvantage, because he knows how to run an offense better than Johnny Manziel does.
Well,
okay. You talk about the A&M defense. You say you're not too sure about this A&M defense. You know, last year they weren't even all that good in my opinion. They gave up I don't know how many points to Louisiana Tech. I mean, this defense could be night and day for all I know.
Yeah, like I said, it's a toss-up. I mean, they could step up and help out their offense, or they could just disappear. But other than that, I like Alabama's their offense against their A&M's defense. But to counter it about why I have what's on A&M's side of the ball is Alabama's defense regressed a little bit. They're still the same front seven wise, yes. But Texas A&M's offensive line that's dumbed down a bit. You know, they lose Luke Jokel. They move Jake Matthews. He's doing a good job there so far at left tackle spot. They bring in Mikey Matthews at center. And I believe, don't they have a new left guard or right guard, I believe, on that team also, a true freshman? But regardless, I think Nick Saban's going to dial up some good blitzes on the weak side of the offensive line. And he's going to probably bully Johnny Manziel and pressure him out the pocket. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing for Alabama, because when Johnny Manziel gets out the pocket, he just makes plays. But with Alabama's weakness, and I think Kevin Sumlin knows this more than anybody else in the country, is their cornerbacks. And he knows that that Kevin Sumlin knows that he has a stud out there at wide receiver named Mike Evans. And I think Mike Evans is going to win this matchup against these DBs, because he's a 6'5", 230-pound receiver, and he's going to bully these. I believe they're not taller than 5'10" or 5'11" corners out there. And I don't think they're going to be able to match up against his height. But I know he's not typically that fast, but I just think he's going to bully. To me, he looks like he looks like Brandon Marshall. That's what I compare him to. He's going to bully these corners, and I think he is going to be the player of this game. I have A&M winning 31-24. Because of Mike Evans. And Mike Evans will come out as MVP of that game, even though everybody's going to call it Johnny Manziel, who's going to win this game.
I think this Texas A&M running game's going to get the MVP. You got Ben Molina, Trey Carson. Those guys are sick.
What about Trey Williams? Is Trey Williams? You don't have Trey Williams in that one too? Because I think he's a stud at running back.
Trey Williams doesn't really see the field that much, so.
That's true. But I believe that the Aggies wide receivers are going to be the difference of this game. I think, well, mostly Mike Evans. I think he's going to bully these corners. That's where Alabama suffers the most at. And I just think Nick Saban gets he's going to get a little bit upset about this game, and he's going to have another press conference like he did yesterday, if anybody saw that.
Special teams, by the way, too. I think Trey Williams is going to make a play on special teams.
Well, they do have Jones, right? I believe that's Alabama's Mr. Playmaker. Chris Jones, or something like that. He's probably going to be a playmaker. He's going to be a big playmaker, too. But that is my prediction. I have A&M winning 31-24, and I think Mike Evans is going to steal the show. So now, let's go to this segment where we like to bring up underrated games that are flying under the radar for us. Let's have our guest go first again. David Flood, what is your underrated game that people need to be watching out for, and why?
I have Arizona State at number 20, Wisconsin. I believe that, and I really like Taylor Kelly as the Arizona State quarterback. I mean, he has played his heart out in his first game. I mean, 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. Granted, it was against Sacramento State. I mean, who are they? But I mean, I think that Taylor Kelly, honestly, and this is a big prediction. I think that if Taylor Kelly comes out and beats Wisconsin, I think that he can put his name in the Heisman voting race. But I also, to counter that, Wisconsin's always been an underrated team. Their defense has been phenomenal in their first 2 games. They haven't allowed a single point in both games. I see this as being a fiery game because each team wants to prove themselves. Arizona State, never really been known as a big program, and Wisconsin's trying to make themselves known because they're always underrated. So I think that Wisconsin deserves to be up in the top 15. I mean, I like Teddy Bridgewater and I like Louisville, but I don't believe that Louisville should be number 7 where they're ranked. I think that Wisconsin's better than Louisville is. I think that if you put Wisconsin against Louisville, Wisconsin comes out on top.
So Teddy Bridgewater. So what you're saying is Teddy Bridgewater can't beat Wisconsin?
I'm not saying that Teddy Bridgewater can't beat Wisconsin. I'm saying the whole team of Louisville can't beat Wisconsin. I just think that. That's my opinion. I like Wisconsin because they're a well-rounded team. They're just a well-rounded team that knows how to play football. And I have Wisconsin coming out on top 35-21. But I would watch out for Arizona State because they can play some football.
DT, what is your game under the radar, and why, and a good player to watch out for?
I'm gonna have to go with TCU versus Texas Tech. Texas Tech going to TCU. TCU is a team that started off slow, a team everybody thought was gonna make a run at the Big 12, whatever. I mean, they still can, but I mean, they had slow starts against LSU. They had a sluggish start against Southeastern Louisiana. TCU about to play a Texas Tech offense led by Cliff Kingsbury and that quarterback you've been talking to me about. What's his name?
Baker Mayfield. Walk on. Baker Mayfield. True freshman.
True freshman. Dudes are bees. I mean, TCU's going to have their hands full. Texas Tech puts up points, yards on everybody. I want to see how they do. Casey Paul, I'm not sure if he's still injured or not, but Brandon Boykins, it's going to be up to him.
So, who do you have winning this game? Do you have a prediction for this game?
I have TCU winning this game 33-28. I believe they jump back in the Big 12 conversation.
Well, you stole my underrated game of the week, and I have TCU and Texas Tech. For the matter of fact, because I love this kid, Baker Mayfield. I cannot get enough of this walk-on true freshman. I mean, I understand Texas Tech puts up numbers, but this kid can run the ball, and that's what Cliff Kingsbury's bringing. He's bringing that Aggies offense to there. Granted that he was with Kevin Sumlin, and Kevin Sumlin kind of taught him how to run that offense there at U of H and also at Texas A&M. But Baker Mayfield is looking like Johnny Manziel out there. He's throwing the ball a lot better than he is in the pocket presence. And this guy's a walk-on true freshman. I like it. But the score, 56-28.
You like Mayfield too much, sir.
Yeah.
56-28. Texas Tech over TCU.
Against a Gary Patterson defense? You kidding me?
Texas Tech. Wait, no. You're picking Texas Tech over TCU by that big of a margin.
Yes, I'm going with it.
Okay.
I have Texas Tech winning regardless, but I'm just gonna put the score in there. I'm gonna say 56-28.
America, this guy's insane.
I completely agree. I mean, I could understand maybe a slight edge, a slight win for Texas Tech, but for that wide of a margin, that's. But hey, you know what? If it happens, you heard it here first.
Well, if I wish I had a helmet or the pistols, I would have looked like Lee Corso. But this is not a video podcast. I think he would be very proud of me of this pick. But regardless, I have Texas Tech winning. I like their offense a lot more. Then TCU. I think it's just going to be a shootout, obviously. But I just have Texas Tech.
I think Devontae Fields, defensive lineman at TCU, I think he gives Baker Mayfield a run for his money.
I think he runs away from him.
And I think he gets caught and fumbles.
Is he playing this game? Is suspension's over?
I believe so. I think he was suspended, 2 games, I believe, 1 or 2 games.
I thought it was 2 to 4, but, I could be wrong. But he wasn't. To me, okay, let's bring an excellent point. Let's go back. You're bringing up Devontae Fields. If he played in the LSU game, would that made a difference?
I think it does, because the game wasn't a blowout. I mean, if you look at the game, it seemed like Zach Mettenberger had all day to throw the ball. It seemed like their offense was so insane. It seemed like they just ran straight through TCU. They had their way with TCU. I think Devontae Field has something to say about that if he's playing.
I completely agree. I think that if the LSU quarterback had less time to throw, I completely echo what DT's saying. That's my complete opinion.
All right. Well, you guys want to go ahead?
Another underrated game, Louisville versus Kentucky. Tell me what you think about that.
Teddy Bridgewater's gonna have a good game. That's what I'm gonna tell you about that game. I'd like. Who's Mr. Stoops? Was it Mark Stoops? He's at Kentucky. Is that the right brother? I believe the Florida State defensive coordinator of last year.
I believe so. Yeah,
he's at Kentucky. They have no kind of offense. I don't even know who's on the Kentucky team, but.
Yeah, me neither.
And didn't they lose to Mr. Bobby Petrino at Western Kentucky?
Hey, you know what? Louisville's going on the road to play Kentucky. That's their rival. I mean, hey, it's a rivalry game. You never know what happens.
That is true.
It's the SEC.
You never know. But I think Teddy Bridgewater's gonna have 3 touchdowns. 3.
I also think 3 top 5. I think 3 top 10 teams are gonna lose this week. By the way, as well.
So
let's get ready.
3 top. Then who are they? Who's gonna be the teams?
I just got a feeling, 3 top 10 teams are gonna lose.
3 top 10 teams.
And Louisville just might be one of them.
You feel like Louisville's gonna lose this game against Kentucky?
I'm just gonna make a bold prediction.
Oh, you're feeling off my energy that I brought with that Texas Tech offense?
Yeah, 56-28. I'm gonna say Louisville. I'm gonna say Louisville 23-20.
They're gonna win. Oh, they're gonna lose.
The Kentucky defense can hold Teddy Bridgewater that well.
Yeah, SEC. Never count out the SEC.
He does have a good point. And plus, it's a rivalry game. It may not matter. There is tough rivalry games out there that.
Yeah, you're right.
What were you saying, David?
Oh no, I was just saying that I don't see that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be held by a Kentucky defense, regardless if it's a Kentucky or Louisville, Kentucky versus Kentucky game. Like, I don't see how the Kentucky defense can hold Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, the guy's only thrown 14 incomplete passes. I mean,
okay. And Geno Smith was doing the same thing last year, and we suddenly forgot about him.
Well, the difference between Geno Smith and I think Teddy Bridgewater is one. Geno Smith is a very big time. The thing he brings more than anything else to the field is his crybaby-ness.
Yeah.
He cries and he's so emotional. I mean, after that Jets game, you barely won because of Vontae Davis.
But look, that's beside the point. I mean, Geno Smith was doing the exact same thing Teddy Bridgewater was. By week 10, we forgot who Geno Smith was. All of a sudden, we were talking about Tavon Austin winning the Heisman. I mean, that's how much we forgot about him.
Geno Smith doesn't have the arm that Teddy Bridgewater has.
Exactly. He doesn't even have Tavon Austin or what's his name? Stedman Bailey. Or any of the running backs that they had over there. If anything, Teddy Bridgewater's playing with the Jets offense. Just like Geno is right now.
You gotta be kidding me.
But
well,
Let's go over the picks one more time for the listeners. David, who do you have winning against UCLA and Nebraska? Who do you
I
have?
have UCLA versus Nebraska. I have UCLA winning 45-35.
Darius, yours?
21-17, Nebraska.
I think I had Nebraska winning 31-28. I believe it's around the lines like that. Let's go to Mississippi, Texas. David?
I have Mississippi winning. I think it was 34-21.
34-25 Mississippi. Darius?
Yeah.
I have Texas 34-27.
34-27. Texas wins this game.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And Mac Brown lives another day.
I have Mississippi winning this game. I think it's going to be, I believe it was a 10-point margin, 34-24, and Mac Brown's seat just got a little bit hotter in Texas. Now, we go to Ohio State, California. David?
I have Kenny Guyton coming in and showing that he can run this Ohio State offense. I think that Ohio State pulls it out. I think it's going to be 34-31 Ohio State.
34-31. All right. Darius?
Ohio State 28-24. They're going to run the ball effectively, and I believe they're going to make a few plays on special teams.
I think they'll have this game also a low-scoring game. You can listen back to the beginning, listeners, and you can tell me what I really said, but I think I'll have Ohio State winning this game. I think, was it 28-21? Maybe more than that, probably like a 35-20-21. But let's go to the big game, Alabama A&M. David?
I think Johnny Manziel succumbs to the pressure of a real defense, and I think that the Roll Tide, baby, 24-17.
All right, Darius?
I'm going to take A&M over Alabama 34-31. Johnny Heisman show goes on.
And I'm having A&M winning, I think, 35-21, I believe. I think it's going to be about a 2-touchdown game. And I think Mike Evans is going to be the player of this game, not Mr. Johnny Football. And before we sign off, let us talk about our – let's just go through this real quick. David, Jets Patriots.
Jets Patriots? Patriots all the way, baby.
How much? By how much? Let's put it this way. Who here doesn't think the Jets are going to win? Who here thinks the Jets are going to win?
Drano, you gonna make another bold prediction?
No. I'm not that stupid now.
No, the Patriots, I mean, the only thing that the Jets have that can stop Tom Brady is Antonio Cromartie. And Tom Brady always has a way of making receivers look better than they are. I mean, you had Julian Edelman come in there. Who is he? He's not going to be a good wide receiver in any other scheme. I think that the Patriots offense just torches the Jets defense. I mean, that could be a huge blowout. We could be looking at it like how Denver and Baltimore was, honestly.
Another butt fumble. The butt fumble comes back?
I don't know if Geno Smith comes that far. I think that Geno Smith makes a lot of dumb plays on offense, and he cries a lot on the field, but I don't see him coming anywhere close to beating the Patriots.
All right, what do you got? Like a 49-7?
Not 49-7. I'm going to go – the Patriots' defense is always questionable because Bill Belichick's such an offensive-minded coach. I think it's probably going to be – I'm going to go with 49-24, just like the Denver-Baltimore game.
Darius, DT.
I'm going to go with the Patriots. Tom Brady, greatest of all time. He's going up against a team, rookie quarterback. Belichick doesn't lose to rookies that much. I mean, 27-16. I think the Jets actually move the ball, but they turn the ball over in the red zone.
I'm going with 56-21. It's going to the Jets are gonna have a heart attack, and they're gonna realize they're not that good.
Nope.
They lost. They won against a very bad Tampa Bay team. Very bad Tampa Bay team.
Okay. And Tampa Bay didn't really score any points against them, really.
Exactly.
I want to bring something up that DT said. He said the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady.
Oh, another topic.
Another topic. We are running out of time, David. No, I'm kidding. But we'll discuss that another time. But one last thing, David, we're gonna ask you. Me and Darius are gonna talk about this because we won't talk to you tomorrow. What is your prediction for the fight? The big time fight.
The fight?
Yes.
I'm Money Mayweather. I mean, I'm not the biggest boxing guy, but I know boxing is corrupt, and I know that they're not going to let Mayweather lose a fight like Pacquiao did. I think Pacquiao was set up when he lost, but I don't think they let Mayweather come out of that fight losing, and I think he knocks out Canelo because Canelo's a little sugar baby.
I think Mayweather's corrupt. He beats the hell out of Canelo. A 7-round knockout in Vegas. Lucky number 7.
You gonna get 7? You got an exact number? You got an exact number, David? David?
7.
I don't have an exact number. I just know Mayweather's gonna knock the hell out of Canelo.
Well, there's been another edition of G and DT's podcast, and I would like to thank our special guest David for coming in today.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. It was a pleasure.
Oh, no problem. And we'll be signing out. And Darius, you got any last things to say or any last comments?
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today. We'll bring you more content tomorrow where we predict the NFL football game. So don't forget to ask us questions below in the comments on our YouTube videos, or send us a Facebook message, or like our page on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter too. We actually made a Twitter account as well. You can ask us questions via Twitter. But I'm G, and that's DT, and we are signing off for today.